to the fact that, you know, there is that fair criticism. Are you serious? That's mad. Allergen. 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 Allergen.
Right, I'm plugged in. I can hear an ominous rumble. I wonder what that is. Right, I'm plugged in. I can hear an ominous rumble. I wonder what that is. Right, I'm plugged in. I can hear an ominous rumble. I wonder what that is. Why am I getting an echo? Like a minute later. A minute to go. I should just start. Right, how do I start? Please, tech, don't fall over. If you stay alive for the next hour, I will buy you some microchips. Okay. Right, let's start. Let's just turn this to silent so I can keep up on any comments. Okay, and let's start. I'm going to start. How do we get it? Here we go. Hello. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Fingers crossed. All this tech is working. And look at this. I put up some walnut paneling. So I'm currently enjoying the fumes from all the grab adhesive that I used. I used rather a lot of it because I didn't want to fanny around with screws and things like that. So I've stuck all this walnut paneling up. Honestly, I know everybody's doing it now. I know everybody's got the same paneling, but I thought, why not join them 3 years after it's hacked? I'll get like a live, laugh, love on the wall as well. But acoustically, it's going to sound brilliant apparently because the walnut, the felt underneath it, it's all going to be great. Today, I'm going to be talking about. Do let me know if you can't hear me. Let me know, because this is my first time using OBS. I'm hoping it looks a bit better than it did on StreamYard. I'm just looking at my image here, and it kind of looks, yeah, it looks better. I can see all the beads of sweat in my nose, because I'm nervous, because this is the first time using OBS. Slightly more complicated than StreamYard, but doesn't look like it's being played through a Nintendo Game Boy. So that's the big advantage with OBS. Also, it's free. That didn't influence me at all. I swear to God. That didn't influence me at all. So today, I'm going to be talking about lots of stuff. We've got Oxford's finest, George Abaraonye. So he was the president-elect of Oxford Union, which isn't apparently an official Oxford Union. Everybody's saying, sounds quality. Walnut paneling is nuts. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. They can hear. Paul can hear. Woodulus can hear. Woodulus says, it looks like I'm in custody, about to be questioned. I wonder what they'd ask me. Oh, this is probably going to happen. They're doing away with jury trials, so they're probably going to have a big sweep of anybody who's posted a picture of a Union Jack or thought about a Union Jack or even enjoyed Britain before the year 2019. If you've got fond memories of Britain, then you're definitely an evil far-right bigot. I'm going to be talking about that because one of the things I'm going to be talking about is, are you too right-wing? Are you too bigoted to be in the military? They've got a list of I think it's 40 things. And I looked through the list. These are 40 things that you've got to watch out for. If you're a senior commanding officer in the military, you've got to watch out for these things because there could be evidence of far-right extremism, and then the person's got to be booted out of the army. Pretty much every single one of them was something I'd be like, that's a prerequisite for joining the army. This is something you've got to read these questions out. Are you patriotic? Yes. Okay, you can be in the army. If somebody's not patriotic, they shouldn't be in the army. I mean, am I missing something? Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. We're also going to be talking about, so as I said, George Abaraonye. He's finally apologised for glorifying and gloating over Charlie Kirk getting shot. We've also got grown men still crying about Nigel Farage bullying them at school 60 odd years ago. Man, everybody got bullied at school, but I'm going to get to that. We're going to look at why these 65-year-old men are still crying because Nigel Farage gave them a wedgie. Talking of wedgies, a third of kids in Glasgow aren't native English speakers. I know you're probably thinking the joke, oh, well, they're Scottish, none of them speak English. No. Man, a third. And this is the thing, because a lot of people on Twitter have been saying, well, in Scotland, people speak Scots. Scots is English. It's just harder to understand and sounds a bit drunk. Scots is still English. It's just a dialect. And then other people are, but Gaelic speak it. Man, nobody in Glasgow speaks Gaelic. I'm from Scotland. I spent a lot of time in Glasgow. I don't know anybody who can even speak. I've met in my whole life, I've met 3 people who can even speak Gaelic. It's not like Ireland where people actually, some people can actually still speak the whatever language they've got over there. I think it's Gaelic as well. Talking of Ireland, we're going to talk about the return of the IRA, but this time they're on our side. They're on our side. Actually, I say that, I probably won't be able to join the military now. I think that's probably, if they had a 41st item, then saying that the return of the IRA is good is probably going to be that 41st item. So let's just crack on. Let's go for it. Oh, and also I've got a thing about I had an argument with a liberal woman, American liberal woman, on GB News about the burqa ban, and she was totally standing up for the burqa. Let's see what people are saying, by the way, before I launch into my tirade about George Abaraonye. Let's see what people are saying. Paul Yerward saying no nails. Yep, and Woodula says being right-wing hasn't harmed the Azov battalion. Absolutely. And apparently Zelensky, because obviously, Ukraine, they're trying to bring it under, European guidance and bring it, make it a sort of a professional army. I'd say the Azov battalion are a professional army because they've got the best sort of hit rate for killing people. They're very effective, very efficient at killing people, and they haven't done that through, sitting down and praying to DEI or anything like that. They've done it by being hard as nails. But Zelensky apparently was tasked with when he became president, he was tasked with going down to the Azov battalion and telling them they were being disbanded. And he went down and met up with them in Mariupol or wherever it was, and said, "Oh, really sorry, but you got to be disbanded. All the Nazi imagery and all this sort of stuff. It's just it's not popular in Europe." And they were like, "No, sorry, we've decided you're not going to disband us. If you try and disband us, we'll kill you." So he just had to go back to Kyiv, and he was like, "I can't disband them. They say they'll kill me." And they're the guys in the country who are the best at doing stuff like that, so they could do it. So yeah, Azov battalion. Oh, also, I'd just like to make the point that Nazi imagery. I know a lot of people. It used to be people on the left, now it's people on the right as well, and Putin as well say, "Oh, look at the Azov battalion, they've got these black suns, these swastikas, all this sort of stuff." It's kind of got a different it's different in Ukraine because they It's not the same as like, if a British guy has swastikas or if a German guy has swastikas. That's always a bit of a warning sign when a German guy has swastikas. But in Ukraine, they were under Soviet rule and suffered horrifically. There was the Holodomor, it was their sort of mass extermination, ethnic extermination with starvation, and the details of it. Man, I read about the details of the Holodomor. People were starved to death, and you could see everybody else was starving. So then if some people did get some extra food, if they found some way of finding some food, or they grew some food like out in the woods or something like that, or went foraging or caught some rabbits or whatever it was, if they managed to get some food, then they'd obviously look like they weren't starving anymore. They'd look a bit healthier. It's like a reverse Ozempic. It's like everybody can tell. And then, so when they their cheeks started filling out or whatever, the local police would be like, well, they're getting some food, and then they'd go around like kick their door in and pour. There's a story of them pouring like a pot of soup onto the floor, like in front of starving kids, and like millions of people died. And then so they saw the Nazis as kind of when Germany came through, they were seen as almost like liberators. I mean, I don't think that sort of bonhomie lasted too long, but it's got a different what's the word? Like memory, a different heritage in Ukraine, and that's some everything I've said is going to be read out by a solicitor in court with no jury, and one day, I'm going to go to jail for saying that. But for now, we've got some stuff to get through. So I know you remember George Abaraonye, the president of the Oxford Student Union. He posted after Charlie Kirk got shot and got killed in front of his family. He posted, "Charlie Kirk got shot, let's effing go," on a massive group chat. And there's group chats you're in that you can say whatever you want, you're going to be safe. And if anybody leaks, then oh my God, that's like, then you go Azov battalion on them. But this is like a mass group chat. This is, one with people he doesn't even know. So he posted that. It's not very, if you're in a position of influence, position of power, the president of the student union, then don't be posting Charlie Kirk got shot, let's effing go on a massive group chat. But then, he could say, well, it's a group chat, it's supposed to be private. But he also posted on Instagram, Charlie Kirk got shot, lol. Which, right after it's happened, isn't the nicest thing to say. He was then eventually voted out. He didn't even resign. He just hung on like an African leader. Not that I'm saying he's like an African leader. Not that I'm saying there's any, but like an African leader. Nothing to do with his skin colour. He held on like an African leader. He had to be dragged away from that palace. Nobody in Africa ever wants to go. You've got to assassinate them. You've got to cajole them. They've even got this, I think the World Bank or some world organisation has got a $25 million fund, and they will pay an African leader if they go, if they leave their seat, if they're voted out and they actually willingly leave, they will give them $25 million. It's like a sort of incentive, just in case anybody's holding on because it's so lucrative being an African leader. They will pay $25 million. And I think it's been claimed like once, But that's enough about African leaders. Hey, nothing to do with Africa. Just because he's got dreadlocks, just because he's whatever ethnicity he is. I'm not making comparisons because of that. And it's not, if anything, I'm the person who doesn't see race. Because I saw this week, people were complaining that 2 black people had been voted out of the jungle. Voted out of, what's that thing? I'm in the jungle, get me out of here. It's shit in the jungle. What's it called? I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. I'm a celebrity in the jungle, get me out of here. Something like that. Celebrities in the Jungle is the show. People were saying it's racist that the African guys left the jungle. So the people who aren't racist want the African guys to go into the jungle? Like, that's definitely been flipped on its head since I was a kid. But anyway, this guy, George Abaraonye, didn't just quietly resign. He called a no confidence vote on himself. So he kind of hoped to survive it. And only after he lost that vote was he treated as having resigned. When he didn't resign at all. He lost the vote, hoping he'd stay on. And then, got turfed out because he lost the vote. I don't know if he'll get to claim that $25 million. But what made it even worse is that he actually debated Charlie Kirk earlier this year. Well, it's been a few weeks since since Charlie Kirk, in fact, what is it, a couple of months? 2 months, something like that, since Charlie Kirk got assassinated, tragically. Horrible. I mean, there aren't very many pleasant assassinations. I can say that. There's usually, JFK, a car covered in bits of head and stuff. But this is a really horrible one. The thing that really got me about it was I heard that his kids, one of his kids, he's got this young kid, like a toddler. When the kid heard the shot, the kid was scared and then ran to his dad or her dad for comfort. And obviously Charlie Kirk was dead then. And man, that really got me. I don't even know if that's true or not, but it really got me. So George Abaraonye has apologized, kind of. Let's have a look at his apology. And this is where the tech might work, might not work. Let's have a look. It's kind of almost there. It's just the wrong tab that is looking at. That's how the number of non-English speaking people is increased in Glaswegian schools. I'm going to find the right tab. It's right here. Where is it? I found the right tab. Now I'm going to go through it. Here we go. Hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to look. It's seamless. I've barely spent 10 minutes talking about this instead of just playing it. Anyway, let's play
criticism of me, and there should be a space to have that fair criticism. We can be very specific and very deliberate in making distinctions to the fact that there is that fair criticism of me, and there should be a space to have that fair criticism of me, and be responsible in how we go about that in consideration of the fact that I am still a student. But then I think we can also be fair in calling out what has also been a lot of kind of just racist and classist vitriol based on the fact that I'm a black person, the fact that I am a student at Oxford, and I think we can be deliberate in splitting apart the two things.
Did you receive threats of violence against you?
Yeah.
Threats?
Yeah, I received threats of violence. My family did, my friends did. And, it was a very difficult time, I think, not just for me, but also realizing that, my mistake has not only impacted my life, but could impact other people's lives and impact even just broader communities, around me. And that was kind of a scary time, not just for me, but also in understanding, I guess, the responsibility that I bore as kind of a student leader in some capacity. I would hope that all of us are kind of able to take away from this a lesson perhaps in how we talk about politics online, and that, perhaps we should move away from this kind of incitement of reaction and this kind of inflammatory nature of political discourse, and perhaps look towards kind of more empathy within our politics, perhaps look towards more kind of collaborative discourse when we talk about politics.
Well, for a start, why does his head look like the ropes in a shipyard? I'm gonna bring it back to just me. Where's the scene where it's just me? There we go. That's just me. I mean, it's nice he's apologised with his weird Pirates of the Caribbean looking head. I mean, he's so articulate. He's so articulate. But you know how he's asking for empathy and kindness, and we shouldn't jump to reaction and stuff like that. He's the one who glorified in Charlie Kirk getting killed, glorified in somebody actually getting killed. And bear in mind, this guy's left wing, so somebody was killed. Charlie Kirk was killed by somebody from his own side. So you'd think if he's so keen on removing the inflammatory language from politics and all this sort of stuff, maybe he wouldn't glory in it. Or maybe if you're gonna at least do it in a WhatsApp group that it's not gonna get leaked. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure we all crack jokes in WhatsApp groups. So I don't know. Also, he seems very inarticulate. I know I'm saying that, sitting here stuttering through my badly teched out live stream in a Scots dialect, which isn't even Gaelic. I know that. But, he's supposed to be the president of the union of the best university in the world. All right, I just barely scraped through Stirling University, which isn't even the best university in Stirling. He got into Oxford University with worse A-level results than me. He had an ABB. I mean, really, he had a DEI. That's what he had, a diversity, equity, and inclusion. He had a DEI in his A-level results. You know, that meant he could choose any career, from being in an advert to being the friend of a white woman in a Netflix drama, to going to Oxford. Anything. He can choose anything because he's, you know, it's very fashionable right now. You know, these things come in waves. I can see the fashion changing, but you know, he got into Oxford with an A and two B's, which is the equivalent of a B and two C's, because now they do these A stars, A pluses, whatever they are. So yeah, it's a B and two C's in old money. That's rubbish. I got 3 A's and 2 B's in my hires. All right, they're not as hard as A levels, but still, you know, got to help Scottish people get over that fence. Anyway, he said that when he first heard about the shooting, he didn't really understand the severity of the situation, and he reacted without having done research and didn't take into account the nuance. What nuance? What nuance do you need? Oh, Charlie Kirk's been shot. Oh, this is quite a nuanced thing. Is this good? Is this bad? Let me sit down and, you know, work it all out. Like a young father who's a nice guy, who goes out and debates with people, meets with people. He's not like, you know, an evil guy like me, hiding away in my walnut-panelled evil lair, spouting my hatred in the safety of my bunker. Charlie Kirk went out there, put himself, you know, on the line, and got shot for it. Somebody couldn't defeat his argument, so they killed him with a gun. There's no nuance. There's no nuance to research. There's nothing to debate. It's genuinely horrible. And, you know, I think he did understand the severity of the situation, George Abaraonye. I don't think he did need to do research. He understood the severity of the situation. He just thought it was funny and he liked it. And at the height of the row, he said he was worried that it could spill into something more, like someone getting hurt. Someone did get hurt. Charlie Kirk got hurt. Really bad, to the point of dying. Like, that somebody got hurt. He still doesn't see that this is something that happened. It's mental. Anyway, according to reports, the Oxford PPP undergraduate, that's George Abaraonye. So that's what, politics, philosophy, and economics. I mean, Jesus. And you know the sort of economics and stuff they'll be teaching there at Oxford. The economics will be stuff like, Marxism is great, actually, guys. It just hasn't been tried properly yet. And all Britain's wealth comes from stealing African wealth. Because, of course, there was all this, you know, wealth in Africa that they weren't doing anything useful with, like, you know, building wheels or chairs, you know, complicated apparatus like that. They weren't doing anything useful with this wealth, but they did have it, apparently. And we stole it. I mean, really, what the British Empire did was take technology around the world and, you know, greatly improve people's living conditions and improve their economic prospects. You know, we took sanitation, railways, the bureaucracies required to run governments. That seems to be the only thing that British people are still good at. We can still, can we create bureaucracy? It's incredible. Kind of to the detriment of the other things we tried to create. But we're great at bureaucracy. We took all this stuff around the world. Like the wealth that we took from these countries. Yeah, we took resources. Yeah, we took people. We bought the people. Somebody sold the people to us. I won't say who those people were that sold them, but you know, we took resources from these countries. But like the value in metal and stuff like that is when you turn it into something, you know, something fancy, like a phone. Like if you took the individual, I know I spoke about this in a previous stream, but if you took the individual bits, the ores that go into that phone, the bits that make up the plastics, the hydrocarbons, whatever it is, wouldn't be worth that much. Somebody tried to build a toaster from scratch. It's a fascinating project. You can go and see the toaster in the Science Museum in London. So they decided, instead of, you know, you can buy a toaster for like 10 quid, probably even less than that. But he decided to try and make his own toaster just from like the world, from what he could get. So he got like ore, he smelted it, melted it, squelted it, and then he made this toaster with like this sort of crude filament and stuff. I don't even know if it works, But the amount of effort he had to put into it. This is why the division of labour is so important. The division of labour, another British invention, another gift we gave the world. Let everybody focus on their own special thing. But anyway, he's obviously going to. I'm spiraling off here, but he's obviously getting taught that. But George Abaraonye was going to hold a debate about the hanging of British flags in public under the title, "This House believes that flying the flag betrays great British values." How can flying the British flag betray British values? Why is everything arse about tit? This is because people like George Abaraonye have been taught that, what Britain's values are is kindness and tolerance and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's not. Some communist decided that. Tolerance is like the worst thing. Look at what you're tolerating. Grooming gangs. You think it's a good idea to tolerate grooming gangs? People are like patting themselves in the back. So, I'm so tolerant. Oh, you won't believe what I tolerated today. Oh, I tolerated a man shitting in some flower beds. Oh, I tolerated the harassment of some women. It's like, no, don't tolerate stuff like that. Be intolerant of bad behaviour. I think the great thing about what made Britain great was our intolerance of uncivil behaviour, not our tolerance of it. But yeah, I mean, he was just doing his job as the token DEI hire, which is to destroy another one of our institutions. They're all getting taken over. They're all getting destroyed by the communists who've completed their long march through the institutions. Sorry to keep banging on about that long march. Let's have a look at some questions. His head is very small. Yeah, it's the weight of all that rope growing out of it. You know, that shipyard rope. You know when you go down to the harbour and you see one of those, what do you call those things they tie the ships to? Those big bollards, those big steel things, the Brunel, the manufactured in Sheffield. Probably all the ones in the world right now. They're probably all made in China now, but I'm sure Britain used to make them. It's like when you go to Singapore and you walk over the bridges, you look at the skyscrapers, amazing skyscrapers, and then you look at the bridge and it was like built, it's like wrought iron, and it was built in the Victorian era by some Scottish guy. All the bridges are built by Scottish guys, and now Scotland can't build. Man, we couldn't build a sand castle. It's ridiculous. But what was I talking about? His head is very small. Oh yeah, the rope. Yeah, when you see those bollards and you see the old bits of rope coming off, that's what his head looks like. Like that rope. And I suppose, it's racist me talking about his hairstyle. No, like if a white guy had that hairstyle. Who's a white guy that would have that hairstyle? Like, I almost said Craig David. He's not white, is he? But I bet somebody like Chris Martin. Ed Sheeran. I can see Ed Sheeran, big ginger ropes coming off his head. I know it's not his hair anyway. I mean, I could have that. All they do is they tie it on. They tie it on, and then your head gets extremely small. Apparently, I've got a large head. My wife tells me I've got a large head like an armchair. And I think that's why, I'm not very broad-shouldered, because it's mostly head. It's just all head there, and then just little shoulders poking out the side. Woodula says, is he black? I'm colourblind. Yeah, it's very noble. I'm colourblind too. I'm not really. Nixkin says, I bet for years he's been telling other people that words have consequences. Exactly. They've got such a blind spot to their own hypocrisy. He'll have been saying that for years. Words have consequences. Like when they were saying, any criticism of, any questioning of gender ideology is like stochastic terrorism. They said it just raises the risk of horrible things happening. So when you say something that demeans or makes fun of like a transgender person, it's increasing the risk of one of them somewhere out in the world getting punched or having some violence against them. So it's called stochastic. You essentially caused that, even though you didn't do it directly. Absolute nonsense, obviously. You didn't cause it at all. You can't, map things like that. But also, if that is true, look at your own behaviour. Look at how Charlie Kirk was dehumanised. And to a way more extreme level than like me making a joke about transgender people. Like Charlie Kirk had people like openly calling for him to be shot anyway before he was shot. So if people had just done a few jokes about how he doesn't look like a woman, then he wouldn't have been shot. And that's all I'd do. Don't see how it leads to anybody getting hurt. Nick Skin also says, would a walnut lined bunker protect you from shelling? Probably not. Probably not. Man, I'm still following the Ukraine war, and I've seen the worst stuff. And like some of the villages they're in, they're like just reduced to rubble. So there's nowhere to even take cover in amongst all the stuff. But then you see like people taking cover. I mean, mostly I'm just looking at the Ukrainian drone stuff. I don't want to watch the Russian stuff, but you know they obviously do it as well. But you see people hiding in these ruined houses, and the drones can like come all the way through and like search around the house. It's absolute nightmarish. Like it's genuinely like Black Mirror. It's the worst. It's the worst. Pretty soon they're gonna have robots going out there. But at the moment they've still got humans. They've still got humans out there. And tell you what, when the robots take over, when the robots start fighting, China is out there. And remember, like, was it Asimov? Asimov had the rules around the basically the sort of 10 commandments for robots, and like the first one is like thou shalt not harm a human. Man, that's not happening. Like the first order they get is harm humans. And once China's built its robot army, like how are you gonna like you can't beat that because it's not even people. They can lose 10,000 robots. Nobody cares. There's no grieving mothers. They're gonna go through us like a Chinese manufacturer goes through the British export economy. It's going to be brutal. We've taken our eye off the ball. We should really be ramping up investment in robotics, but not like, when I say ramping up investment, this is the thing. People always say the government needs to invest in this. No, the government shouldn't invest in anything, but the government should like step back and like stop taxing people so much and let them invest in the things, because people will invest the money much more wisely than the government does. The government can't spend money. It's rubbish. It's like an auntie that hates you and doesn't know you buying you a Christmas present. And also she's actually, the government doesn't spend money like it's skinned. It spends money like it's got infinite money, which some people say it does. Tom McDonald, the rapper, that's the white guy I'm thinking of. He's got those, the big things, the Rick James poodle ropes, whatever you call them. Russians sending guys out with no guns and armor. It's crazy. Yeah, man, it's brutal. Just meat assaults. Going out there on electric scooters and stuff. But the thing is, they got so many people, they can just do it. They can just do it until like one gets through, establishes a foothold, and then, then you're screwed. I mean, even if the ratio, because Ukraine's fighting a defensive war, the ratio of like Russian killed to Ukrainian killed is high. But still, Russia's got a lot more people. It's crazy the way Russia's fighting. Once that hits Europe, because it looks like Europe's just leaving Ukraine hanging out to dry. I know not everybody wants to hear about Ukraine, so I'm going to crack on. I know it's become this divisive issue. I don't know how. Like, I mean, as a sort of right-wing person, it's quite a sort of nationalistic person. When Ukraine got all this support from the left, I was like, yeah, all right, hey, welcome aboard the right-wing nationalist train, guys. Thank you for your billions of tax dollars helping the Azov battalion. I just saw it as a massive win, but other people were like, oh, this means if Joe Biden likes him, that means it must be bad. It's like, no, like some of the stuff, like the way the Azov battalion, the way Ukrainian soldiers talk about Joe Biden, they're like, I can't even say it because people will stop liking Ukraine if they do like Ukraine. But they say some racist stuff that's obviously I disapprove. But some people might find it amusing. Anyway, Oxford Union has now elected its first Palestinian president. I think I've got a picture of her. Let's see if I can get a picture. Look at this. Look at this flawless thing. So yeah, if I just go to here and then I go to, there she is. The tech worked. The Oxford Union just elected its first Palestinian president. Arwa Hanin El Yares is also the first Arab woman and Algerian to hold the position, her father said. So, oh yeah, this is interesting. So she was born in London. So her parents are Algerian, I believe. She was born in London and grew up in the UAE, I understand. And somehow she's Palestinian. Somehow she's Palestinian. I mean, it just shows like Palestinians are kind of a invented thing. I know I've gone from Ukraine, which is, one contentious issue, to the fact that Palestinians are an invented like demographic group. But why not? And of course Oxford Union. Of course they voted in a Palestinian president. I mean, the ball-curling cringe. They're all like posh, because most of Oxford, I'm sure, is still posh white kids. Even the black and the Asian kids are going to be posh as well. The Chinese kids in the maths department, they're all going to be posh. They're all, they made it to Oxford for a reason. I know somebody who went to Oxford. He's actually a bit of a wanker. I used to be mates with him. He's called Ollie Horn. He's a comedian. Fanny. Don't tell him I said that. Actually, fuck it. Do tell him I said that. You probably don't even know who I'm talking about. But he went to Oxford, and his mum's a solicitor and his dad's a doctor. And he said he was like looked down on as like a scumbag. So maybe it's just as well. Maybe it's just as well I went to Stirling, Stirling wasn't so bad. I think I would have benefited from national service instead of going to a sort of mid-range university and studying a pointless media degree. Although I'm using it now, set up all this tech. Man, I could run that course at Stirling University. Just make sure, lesson 1, just make sure you have 500 wires on your desk. Make sure if you I plugged my phone into charge and my monitor turned off. I have no idea why. It's not even, they're not connected in any way. It was just going to a USB thing that's going into the plug. Somehow it's gone through the electric circle. My phone is sending a message to the monitor to turn off. So I can't charge my phone. I've only got 64% of battery. That'll do me. That'll do me. But yeah, of course they elected a Palestinian representative. It's like Eurovision Song Contest. It's like how, did Ukraine win? I can't remember. But like, if something bad happens, like, if there's a big, a tidal wave hit Poland. Is Poland landlocked? I don't know. But like, if something bad happened, then for a fact next year that country's winning Eurovision. If there's a cataclysmic event like Russia invading or something next year, Europe's going to deploy its greatest military pushback and let that country win Eurovision. Man, I don't think Europe knows what's coming. Like, Europe has just spent the last few decades trying to make its kids like genderqueer communists, while Russia is like totally immoral, doesn't care about its own human lives. They just get guys out of the prison. They promise guys, look, you're going to get all this money. And, the guys are like, wow, I'll do it. Maybe the war will be over. By the time you're down the front, it's kind of too late. By the time you think it's a bad idea, it's kind of too late. China's building those robot armies. I'm not joking. The Chinese robot armies, like, unless your robots are at the same level, maybe Elon Musk is going to save us. Oh, maybe all the liberals will have to get down on their knees and suck Elon Musk's dick again. Wouldn't that be amazing? Remember how they had to suck him off because he made electric cars? He had like the only electric cars, and they were cool and they went fast. So you could get an electric car and save the world and show everybody how you're saving the world by adding an electric car to your car collection. If you're Leonardo DiCaprio, he's like, oh yeah, I've got it next to my Bentley. It's like, if you've got 18 cars already, like, you're not saving the world by buying an extra car. You're just consuming more resources. But for a lot of liberals, they could be like, well, I'm saving the world. I've got this car, and they could also like enjoy it. It's not like eating mung beans or something. It's an enjoyable thing. It's an enjoyable thing because it actually functions like a car. And Elon Musk did that for them. Amazing job. But then Elon Musk, came out as like a really cool guy who pays attention to things and isn't afraid of being called names. And he said some stuff about grooming gangs and various other things. And then all the liberals had to be like, Elon Musk is a bad guy. Elon Musk is a bad guy. And then they're all like, man, I've seen Tesla in this country where we don't do stuff like this. I've seen Teslas with bumper stickers saying, I bought it before Elon was a dick or whatever. And it's like, man, Elon's just getting better and better. He's getting better and better. I'm going to put it on to just me. So they're all going to have to, if he comes up with the robots that can save our lives, everybody's going to have to thank him. And he's doing this stuff. He can put stuff in space as well. And he can also, he makes these vacuum sealed pipes that you can fire cargo through extremely quickly. It's very exciting. Man, I've done 40 minutes just talking absolute shite about the first. How did that take 40 minutes? I need to speed up. Because I'm going to talk about Nigel Farage and the sort of controversy over his school bullying. So a group of former classmates, more than 24 former classmates according to reports, have told journalists that as a teenager, Nigel Farage repeatedly used racist and anti-Semitic slurs at school, particularly targeting non-white pupils and a Jewish boy, and joined in chants and jokes about the Holocaust. One ex-pupil, the filmmaker Peter Etedgui, man, like that's when you get dealt the letters in Scrabble. Like, organize it into some. Anyway, I'm gonna bring it up. Not that. I'm gonna find it. Here we go. There he is, Peter Etedgui. Maybe he founded Goo Puddings. Those tiny little puddings. Tiny. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a smaller pudding unless you're on a plate. You know, you get those ones that are they're like one of those pods you put in a coffee machine. You know when somebody's got a coffee machine that takes pods instead of like a real coffee machine that you put real coffee in and you've got to tamp it down and stuff? You get those ones that are the size of one, but the Goo pudding is slightly larger than that, and you get a glass ramekin, which is fun. It's man, because one thing I wanted when I was growing up, I was like, one day I'm gonna have 47 little glass dishes, completely useless, just in the back of the cupboard. You know, because what do you even do with them? Do you put them in I guess you can put them in recycling, but they're not bottles. Anyway, this guy, the filmmaker and inventor of tiny puddings, Peter Etedgui, says Farage told him things like Hitler was right and gassed them, and others say they regularly heard him direct racist comments at anyone who wasn't white. I don't know, look at this guy. He got bullied at school, and he's 65 years, and he's 65 years old, and he's crying about getting bullied at school. It's like, no wonder you got bullied at school. I mean, Jesus Christ, Peter Etedgui. It's lucky you didn't go into cage fighting. Lucky you went into filmmaking and luxury puddings. Because that's weak behaviour. This is a man who, this shows the value of Andrew Tate, frankly. This is a man who needed some Andrew Tate, needed some Bugatti Academy to put some hair in his balls. He's still crying about getting bullied at school. So I think we need bullying, to be honest. I think, look what's happened over the last 20, 30 years since we eliminated bullying at school. Like, I got bullied at school. Like, as soon as I started acting like, like a knob, somebody would bully me. And then I'd be like, oh wait, yeah, no, I shouldn't be a knob. I'll put the tutu, I'll take the tutu off. I'll take the eyeshadow off. Like, if you have bullying, then you don't have like a whole generation wanting to cut their balls off, because they get the idea of cutting their balls off bullied out of them before they even get to the operating table. But according to The Guardian, some contemporaries have described this, by which they mean Farage's bullying, as sustained playground-style racist bullying, not just one-off remarks. Thing is, like, they're saying this, like, Farage said this stuff. I don't know if you've heard it, but, he was going up to people. I'm not going to repeat it. You know what it is. It's like something, like, you couldn't do it now. You couldn't do it now, but but when I was growing up, we did say racist stuff, and not everybody I knew was white. Most of them were, because I was in Scotland. But like when I was very young, like 6 or whatever, I had a mate called, well, I won't say his name because he'll be out there somewhere. But he was a mate. He was, he wasn't, and he was black, and he wasn't like, when I say he was a mate, it wasn't like, oh, he was different from us in some way. We were all mates together. There was no difference, apart from his nickname was Cocoa Pops, because he was, he was brown, but it wasn't like a evil, like nasty nickname or whatever. Like my nickname was Lep Man. Lep Man, yeah, it trips off the tongue. And my nickname was Lep Man because I had eczema, and so people said I had leprosy, so they shortened it to Lep Man. Which I think is pretty funny. Like, I mean, that's pretty funny. to take a weakness. But the thing is, it deflates any. Then you're not worried about You're not walking about worried about your eczema because everybody's calling you let man. It's like it's totally denatured any concerns you have about it. And yeah, calling a mate Cocoa Pops, that wasn't a evil thing. He was a mate. We all had nicknames. And if we gave the one non-white guy a nickname that was totally placid, I mean, it is pretty placid, but if we gave him one that didn't, reference what he looked like or whatever, then that would be weird and that would be racist. And also, when we could just say racist stuff, like back in I can't speak about the 70s, I was born, but in the 80s and the 90s, especially in the 90s, we could say racist stuff. We could crack racist jokes. I heard a lot of funny racist jokes, like legitimately ones that you can tell people, and they laugh despite themselves. But people were less racist, like less divided. They were being able to speak openly without having to stick up your ass meant that you got on with everybody, and it was great. You know what I mean? It was great fun. And now that everybody's like very careful to use the right term and the right, and I mustn't comment on the hair, or I mustn't say anything about how anybody looks, and I've got to be so careful because everything's racist and it's the worst thing you can do. Now that everybody's got to stick up their ass, now everybody's getting divided. It was better when we could just all relax and say what we wanted. Anyway, Farage denies being a racist bully. He said that while everyone said things in the 1970s that would sound bad today, he never tried to hurt anybody and didn't use racist language with malice. He suggested that the accusers are politically motivated and notes that some former schoolmates, including a Jewish pupil, have defended him as offensive but not racist. And Reform UK Deputy Leader Richard Tice has dismissed the claims as made-up twaddle. Made up twaddle. That's like a character from a pantomime. Widow Twanky, made up twaddle. And Farage today, just a few hours ago, because he was getting, slammed by the BBC, he says, "The double standards and hypocrisy of the BBC are absolutely astonishing. At the time I was alleged to have made these remarks, one of your most popular weekly shows was the Black and White Minstrels. The BBC were very happy to use blackface. And not only in the Black and White Minstrels, you did it in It Ain't Half Hot, Mum, as well. And what about Alf Garnett? Do you remember the word he used to describe Marigold on primetime national TV? I better not repeat the word, otherwise you will all say that I used it. Homophobia. It ain't half hot, Mum. Are you being served? Are you being served homophobic? And what about Bernard Manning? Perfectly happy at exactly the same time for Bernard Manning to appear on primetime national BBC comedy telling jokes for which these days you'd probably get a knock at the door from our thought police and perhaps get a 31-month prison sentence. I cannot put up with the double standards at the BBC about what I'm alleged to have said 49 years ago and what you're putting out in mainstream content. So I want an apology from the BBC for virtually everything you did during the 1970s and 80s. I mean, to be honest, the BBC did worse things in the 1970s and 80s. They did some work. They did real life things. There was Jimmy Savile. There was Rolf Harris. Stuart, what was the guy who presented it? It's a Knockout. I better not name names because it'll turn out that one of them was just investigated and never got charged. But yeah, basically anybody on the BBC was up to no good. It's why I want to work there. It's why I want a job there. Like, I think I can bring those glory days back. Because, say what you like about Jimmy Savile, but that man made some of the most compelling Saturday evening television I've ever seen. Oh my God. Fixing it for those kids. What else did he do? He did other stuff as well. You can see why he kept his spot at the BBC. You can see why they couldn't get rid of him because, he had everything. He had the looks. He had the glamour. He didn't have any creepiness whatsoever. I mean, what was that all about? Jimmy Savile. It's like, people were like, oh, he's just so powerful, we couldn't stop him. It's like, he's not Godzilla. He's not going to destroy London. And also that, why shouldn't he destroy London? Maybe that's a good thing. It would reset the demographics. But, basically, Nigel Farage, he's, people are saying, like, was it CNN put out a thing saying, this is going to damage Farage's electoral prospects. I think the country's changed so much. The country's so divided now, and it's so nobody cares about the word racist anymore. Like, if somebody's genuinely being a sort of, a bottom-dwelling, like, mean-minded, nasty, racist guy, then, fine, that guy's a dick, But somebody like me that gets called racist because I think grooming gangs should be, like their heads should be on spikes at city walls. Like, they should be, like, I think deporting them is a very generous offer for grooming gangs and their communities. It's a very generous offer. Like, you read the court transcripts of the grooming gangs, that's like an act of war. The difference between racists in the old days is, like, in the 1970s, these guys like Enoch Powell, who, man, like, if anything, like, Enoch Powell greatly underestimated how terrible multiculturalism would be. Like, he didn't see the grooming gangs coming. Like, he was wildly optimistic. He had a wildly utopian vision of how positive migration would go. But if you got these guys like Enoch Powell, he was slammed. Other people were slammed because they were seen as deciding this is what the future is going to be like, and sort of prejudicing based on things that hadn't happened. Now, when people have negative opinions of certain communities, it's based on decades of horrific crime, terrorism, grooming gangs, like all this stuff, and also just the everyday, the real life experience. Nothing radicalizes people more than reality. So this idea that we're all gonna still pretend that racism is the ultimate worst thing, when really a lot of people will be like, there's more pressing issues. I get that racism is mean and it's nasty and it's undesirable and it's impolite and all the rest of it. But I've got no idea why it's seen as worse than grooming gangs. Like, grooming gangs are like pretty much the apotheosis, like just the ultimate evil. Like, it's unreal. Like, to do that to children, to young girls, and it's so widespread. I know people who are targeted and had their lives, and not even like no criminal action came of it. Like, the lassie was 16 when it started happening, so she was like it was kind of like, I guess, technically legal, but like ruined her life. Well, I mean, I don't know if it like ruined her, but she's a sex worker and stuff now, so not that I'm not like friends with her or anything, but like, for me to know people, I didn't even live in a grooming gang place, thank God. Speaking of rapid demographic change, there's news this week that a third of kids in Glasgow aren't native English speakers. A third of the kids at school have English as a second language. This is up from 22% just a few years ago. I'm going to bring this up. Watch this. I'm totally going to be able to get it. There we go. Look, I've got the nearly 1 in 3 children in Glasgow doesn't speak English as a first language. The figures are fueling growing concerns about the capacity of Britain's asylum capital to cope with the influx of new arrivals. So it's called Britain's asylum capital because even though it doesn't take the most asylum seekers, it takes the most proportionally by like the number of people. And here on this thing, you can see how the number of pupils with English as a second language is rising in Glasgow. So back in like 2000 and I mean, this isn't the best. So this would be like 2005. It's about 20 years ago. You can see it's about like maybe 6,000, something like that. The number of pupils with English as an additional language, and obviously a lot of them would be European because this was before Brexit, so we're getting a lot more immigration from the Eurozone. Actual European people, not people who are European nationals, but turn out not to be. So it'd be Polish, Romanian, people who have a shared culture. We're European, we're Christian, all the rest of it. So they kind of fit in a lot. Although there would have also been a lot of Pakistani people. I mean, where my mum lived in Glasgow, she's moved now, but where she did live on Kearse Street, it was basically a sort of Pakistani enclave. I mean, it was perfectly fine. But when I was dating a sort of what ethnicity was she? Was like Afghanistan, Indian, and Irish. I was dating this lassie in Glasgow, and she said she wouldn't go out with the Pakistani men. I was like, well, thank God, because I would look down on that in a relationship. You're supposed to just be with me. No, she said, before, like she wouldn't date them. And the reasons she gave, and I guess I can recount them because it's not racist for me to say it, because I'm just recounting what a person of color said to me. She said they're into sort of low level crime, drug dealing, and all the rest of it. And the Pakistani men have all these like ridiculous ideas about what women should do. And I think these liberal women should maybe think about what the men they're encouraging to come in, how that's going to change the fabric of Britain. But anyway, what's this going to mean for Glasgow? So it's the asylum capital of the UK. Proportionately, I think we might even have a little graph of this. Yeah, so proportionately, it's got 3 times as many asylum seekers going to Glasgow as go to London. So this is putting huge pressure on housing, on social housing and stuff like that. I know people say we should house our veterans, we should house our our own homeless people. It's like, no, we shouldn't house them either. What we should do is we should sell the housing, and like people who with all that housing coming on the market for people to buy, it'll get cheaper for people to buy, so then working people will have a better time. And the people who are homeless or whatever can get a job, and they can buy one of the things. We should stop giving stuff away for free. Are you mental? Are you insane? Stop giving stuff away for free. Don't be like, oh, we should give it away to people. No, don't give it to anybody. Nobody should be living in social housing. You know what I mean? Unless you're like, all right, if you're like disabled, something like that, there should be provision made for you. If you can work, man, you should work. Even in Glasgow, where nobody wants to work. You can still, like, you can't tell me there's no jobs. People are like, oh, it's so hard getting a job. No, it's so hard getting a fucking job when you can make more money on benefits. I see it when I go back to Scotland. People get caught in the benefit trap. The budget this week. So they basically they made it so you get more benefits the more kids you have. And obviously, we know what demographic is having the most kids. But if you've got 5 kids, I think, then you're actually better off on benefits than somebody earning like 70 grand. I think it's 70 grand, which might actually mean you're better off than somebody earning 100 grand. Because like if you've got that much money coming in, it's not that you pay tax on your benefits. You know what I mean? It's like they're benefits. So people get caught in the benefit trap. If you've got 2 parents working the minimum wage, you're making less money than somebody with like 5 or 6 kids on benefits. It's mental. And what's this going to mean for Scotland? Like, I mean, it's obviously in the classrooms. If a third of the kids are speaking English as a second language, obviously a lot of them will be able to speak English as well, to some degree. But it obviously means there's going to be a lot of kids who can't speak English or can't speak English adequately. And the school is going to have to put way more resources and provisions into like teaching those kids English. And that's resources that are taken away from, Scottish kids who also need to learn to speak English, probably more than anybody. So that's resources. That's taxpayers' money. English taxpayers' money, by the way. That's why Scotland can be so. That's why the SNP can be so. Oh, we're going to take them all in. Oh, so generous. So then they're like, Westminster, give me the money. Give me the money. It's like your wife asking you for 200 quid to get you a birthday present. It's like that's not a birthday present from you. That's a birthday present from me. So it's going to be hard to learn if some kids can't even speak English. And also a lot of these kids are going to be from deeply alien cultures. If you're coming from Afghanistan or somewhere, that's not the same culture. That's a very different culture. So it's not like there's going to be this integrated... I've seen it in London. Like, one of my mates, he's moved to Devon. I saw him at the weekend. Better not give you any more information or, he might be implicated. But he... was sending his kids to state school in Tottenham, where he lived, and I think he would have loved to stay in Tottenham. He had, family there, all his connections, business and stuff, and he was doing comedy as well. So he was gigging as well. But his kids were the only like white kids at the school, So they were getting left out of all the, you got all these kids running about speaking Urdu or whatever, and his kids are British, and he's a first generation migrant from Europe, but his kids are British, like are getting excluded from the sort of the main stuff because they're not getting invited to the Ramadan parties or whatever whatever they have. I don't know what they have, but yeah, I mean you can't if you're British and you're getting excluded from school. So he had to move to Devon. So now his kids go to school with British kids and don't get excluded from anything, and and that's without any sort of risk. I'm not even talking about the risk of any increased crime or anything like that. And the SNP are acting like it's going to be beneficial for Scotland. I mean, this isn't being done for benign reasons. This is the same as the reasons that we had open borders. We still have open borders in England. We've got a left-wing establishment. The blob runs everything. We might change the government, but they're pretty ineffectual. So we've completely open borders because the left want to bring in as many people as possible because they want to gerrymander the vote. They know that these people, when they arrive, are going to vote left-wing. Like in 2019, 85% of British Muslims voted for Jeremy Corbyn. There you go. That's why they were all being brought in. I mean, it's changed now. It's changed now because they've got the numbers now to have their own candidates. So now they're not voting Labour. And now, because they're not voting Labour, you can see Labour actually turning around and be like, oh, you know what? We're going to set up this task force to deal with grooming gangs. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We might even have an inquiry at some point if people kick up enough fuss. So we can see that as soon as Labour lost the vote from these people, their incentive to keep them here was gone. Also, is to sort of break down the nation state and replace it with communism, like the Red-Green Alliance. Is that what it's called? The Islam and left-wing alliance. Man, that's 10 o'clock. I better speed up a bit. Sorry for waffling. It's like you just go off on one, and it's so easy to spiral off into tangents. This is why I could never have a proper job. I remember when I worked at BAE Systems. So I was a senior consultant in their intelligence division. Man, no wonder the country's fucked. But I was working in their intelligence wing, applied intelligence, and we did stuff for government agencies and military stuff or whatever. We did a lot of commercial stuff as well, and I was working on it was like it was some for British Gas, and I can't remember what it was, but I was supposed to just set up this dashboard that you could see, you could adjust it, and you could see it was just boring stuff. It was just they had a database, and I was supposed to connect the dashboard to the database. But I went away and because we're using sort of 3D models of to sort of show areas on the map. And I went away at the weekend and all weekend I taught myself to code in KML, the Google Maps markup language, and so I managed to extract the data from the database, and I created fly-throughs in Google Maps of 3D stuff showing the gas usage or whatever it was changing by region over time, and it was so cool. And I was like, look, you can set the fly through to be whatever, it's totally dynamic. You know what I mean? It's not just on rails and you record it. You can do it, and you can it'll work for whatever. It's live, it's dynamic, it's coming out of the database with whatever live data is in there or going through the months, so you can see how the trends ebb and flow by region. Over a map of Britain. It was so cool. And I explained this. I was saying all this to my boss. He's like, yeah, but did you do the thing I asked you to do? And I was like, no, shit. And man, and he was so stressed out. Man, he cried. He cried one time. Because I made him cry. I didn't make him cry, but he cried because I caused him so much stress. Yeah, that's just the history of my career before I worked out. In comedy, you can just it's such a condensed bit, 20 minutes of shouting. Like you don't need to be. Anyway, I should get focused. I'm sure people take pills that make them able to focus. But yeah, Farage was criticised for highlighting the situation in Scotland with a third of school kids speaking English as a second language. So First Minister John Swinney accused Nigel Farage of making racist comments about school children in Glasgow. Speaking in a campaign video, the Reform UK leader highlighted how nearly 1 in 3 pupils in the city speak English as a second language, which he described as cultural smashing of Glasgow. Farage added that it was unfair to taxpayers that people like this should come into Britain illegally, adding that his party would make it a really big issue in next year's election. Asked about the remarks, Swinney said they demonstrate that Nigel Farage is a purveyor of racist views. He told BBC News, "I think Nigel Farage's comments are quite simply racist. There's no other way to describe them. I don't know quite when we believed multilingualism was something of a problem in our society. It's not a view I take. I think it's a benefit and it reflects the diversity of our country. And I think these comments demonstrate that Nigel Farage is a purveyor of racist views and people should think long and hard about that before they vote for his party." I just don't think this man. So I'm just reading that off the article. I don't think this whole well, I think this is quite simply racist. So what? Is he wrong? Is he wrong? Why don't you say he's wrong? Why don't you say he's wrong and he's racist instead of he's racist? He could be racist and right. And then what's worse? This politeness rule where you're not allowed to be racist or being correct. You know what I mean? Say that he's wrong. Also, Swinney, I can call out that comment. I think multilingualism is a benefit. Man, come on. You got completely different cultures, alien cultures, and we see it, like with my mate when his kids went to school in Tottenham and they were the only white kids in the class. And, they didn't get invited to stuff because and all the other kids are running about talking Punjabi or, whatever language, whatever squiggly writing language they were speaking. And people were like, "Oh, but you don't know I don't want to know the difference. Why should I care? Why should it be in my, why should it be something that's in my sphere of observation? I don't want to care. I don't give a shit. I'm literally, I just don't, I think everything was fine. And if this was European, culturally similar people coming here seeking refuge, nobody would have a problem with it. And we'd know they were going to, contribute and they were going to go back. Instead, communists in our own country are exploiting the system to use our taxes to bring people here, bribe them to come here, and pay them to be here. And have huge families as part of a sort of multi-generational way of breaking down this country. Because they hate it, because they want to destroy the nation state and want to replace it with a one-world communism. And they don't even hide it. They don't even deny it. Anyway, Prime Minister, this is me back to reading the article, Prime Minister Kearse told the BBC that Farage was only interested in the politics of grievance and pulling communities and societies apart. I think societies were together a couple of decades ago. We were kind of together a couple of decades ago. And then something happened. Loads of people who are quite different were allowed in. A lot of them, assimilated, did a great job. I know a lot of people. I've got people in my family who can trace their roots overseas. But then they invited in more and more people and more and more and more. And the people who were coming in weren't even going into areas where they could assimilate because they were going into areas where everybody spoke Urdu. Instead of them being one of only 2 Pakistani kids in the school, they'd be an entire school of Pakistani kids. Then how's somebody going to become, imbued with British values? Keir Starmer added, "I'm very proud that in Scotland we have communities that are compassionate, reasonable, diverse. Of course, I'm very proud to serve all of the communities in Scotland. I don't look to pull those communities apart." You're literally pulling them apart by bringing in people who aren't of that community. That's how communities work. It's like the Labour Party doesn't have Conservatives in it. Actually, that's a lie. The Labour Party is full of Conservatives and the Conservative Party is full of Labour. It's the Uniparty. But the Labour Party doesn't have Reform people in it. And that's because that would cause conflict and division in the Labour Party. Are these people insane? Are they insane? And this idea of the universal human. Everybody's the same. Oh, you can just bring somebody. And as soon as they set foot on British soil, they become British. It's just madness. And also Keir Starmer saying, "I'm very proud that in Scotland we have communities that are compassionate, reasonable, diverse." These are not words I would use to describe Scottish people. Compassionate? Maybe after 8 pints. Maybe you get mushy and emotional and compassionate and want to help people instead of fighting them. Reasonable? When have Scottish people ever been described as reasonable? The Scottish people are famously reasonable. Famously reasonable. You know what I mean? No, I remember I went back to Glasgow. I went back to Glasgow for a gig, and I hadn't been there in a few months, and I walked out the train station, and there's a guy with his t-shirt ripped off, like swedging away, walloping another fucking big fat middle-aged guy. Not even like young guys. And this is like 4 p.m. You know, this wasn't 2 a.m. in Weatherspoon's car park. This was like 4 p.m. You know, there's mums with toddlers walking past and stuff. Guys just sprawling in the gutter, like bellies wobbling everywhere. Like, just disgusting. But, no, it's famously reasonable. Man, it's not Norway. Are you joking? It's Scotland. It's famously unreasonable. Its national identity is irrationality and aggression. And now it's all fat communists, and I hate that. I prefer it when it was, you know, angry ginger people. And diverse, like Scotland. I mean, maybe it's going to be diverse now. Now we've got a third. And it's crazy in Aberdeen and Edinburgh as well. So these are the two other sort of, you know, major cities in Scotland. The number of non-English speaking or English as a second language speaking school kids is like 20%. So it's not like, you know, in Glasgow it's 29%, but it's still insanely high in Aberdeen. And these are places I thought, man, that place is always going to be white. Because why would you go? Why would you go from the Congo? Why would you go from, like, you know, somewhere like that to Aberdeen? I mean, Jesus. You know how they'll post on TikTok being like, I'm having such a great time in my 4-star hotel in London. Man, they're not doing that if they get sent to Aberdeen. They're like, you know, Mama, can you send me a fur coat? I'm freezing. So yeah, I'm going to finish on this because I've gone too long. But this is a fun thing. This is the return of the IRA. The IRA have returned, and I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of relieved. Let's have a look at them. I should get rid of that window first. Yeah, the IRA have returned, and honestly, it's genuinely good news. Have a look at this. Have a look at this. I'm going to pull it up.
To the people of Newry, Mourne and Down, we, the New Republican Movement, have watched their councillors and MLAs over the past 12 months. The level of disrespect shown to the people who put you into power, this cannot be ignored any longer. We are proud men of Ireland. We are patriots. Your policies and decision-making in regards to flooding our communities with undocumented military-aged men is not acceptable. We will not sit back any longer and watch our culture and religion destroyed by the people we put in power. Also, the sexual indoctrination of our children in schools has not went unnoticed either. The New Republican Movement will take immediate action against anyone who threatens our ways of life and the safety of our women and children. We have your addresses and known your movements. Every one of you are legitimate targets as of today. The New Republican Movement, the 28th of 11/25.
Legitimate. It's a while since I've heard that word said in an Irish accent. Legitimate political party. But remember the IRA in the old days, and the provisional IRA and the real IRA and stuff? They were nationalists. They believed in a united Ireland. They believed in, you know, they were blood and soil nationalists. But they kind of weren't as well. Like Sinn Féin, the political wing of the IRA, although they'll insist that they're separate. You know, Gerry Adams, Martin McGuinness, Sinn Féin were really a sort of Marxist company that I think was exploiting the Irish Republican movement, this push for a united Ireland, to push its Marxist ideology. And now you can see, now that there's peace in Ireland, now that Ireland's a thriving country and like self-governing, and it's really doing well. It's, you know, in a lot of measures, it's doing better than Northern Ireland. Now that they do that, you know, the call used to be, you know, Ireland for the Irish and Brits out. Now Sinn Féin's attitude is like Ireland for the Somalians, Ireland for anyone from the Horn of Ireland, Ireland for anyone in the world apart from the Brits, apart from, you know, the most closely related island. You know what I mean? The closely related island, like right across 20 miles across the water. Apart from them, apart from British people who'd actually, you know, fit in fine and do fit in fine. I'm going to Ireland soon. It's a great place. And you know, genuinely a lovely place, and a lot like Scotland, to be honest. But I am kind of relieved to see the Irish Republican movement come back, because I think it's kind of healthier this time. All right, we're seeing some guys there with guns. They actually didn't look as scary as the guns they used to have. Is that their best guns? That was like, you know, like the sawn-off shotgun and stuff. Like my mate Gordy made a sawn-off my dad are gunsmiths, and Gordy made a sawn-off shotgun at school and took it and sold it to someone for like 10 quid. And I found, man, I made him give the money back, because this thing was like rattling. He'd made it in his dad's work shed, and if he'd actually gone and fired it, which, you know, kids do stuff like that, you know, we're like 15 or whatever. If he'd have gone and fired it, that thing would have blown up. You know, the thing was rattling, like it wasn't connected properly. You know, this is where, you know, a 15-year-old kid can't be a gunsmith. But, you know, regardless of the quality of the armaments, I think they represent a wider sentiment amongst the Irish people. You know, Irish people still have a bit of fire in their balls and aren't afraid of standing up for their own country, as they did, you know, for a long time. I don't agree with the IRA. I don't agree with what they did. You know, I understand Britain didn't handle the situation particularly well. I don't want to get into that debate. But you know, to see Ireland now taking even more asylums, I mean, I say asylum seekers, these are obviously, you know, economic migrants, because they've travelled, you know, so far, they've through so many safe countries, from safe countries, to get here, and then, you know, go across to Ireland. They take proportionally per head of population. All right, Ireland's a much smaller country, but they take more than Britain does even. And you can see Irish people aren't too happy about it now. People have been chanting Sinn Féin are traitors. This is like Irish people, you know, real Irish people chanting Sinn Féin are traitors. This is Sinn Féin, the political wing of the IRA. And there's we've even seen Irish Republicans and loyalists march side by side. Have a look at this. I'm just going to pull this up. Look at that. Union flags and Irish flags. Oh, wait. I haven't selected it. Here we go. Look at that. Union flags and Irish flags flown side by side at an anti-migrant protest. That would have been unthinkable. Unthinkable. Just a few years back. And now it's happened. The two people who care so deeply about their land are united against the people who don't care about their land. Because, you know, when you've given away these ethnic enclaves, if you've got an enclave in wherever it is, in the north of England, Birmingham, Derby, wherever this ethnic enclave is, essentially that's land you've given away. And I'd understand if we like sold it and got an incredible deal and a huge amount of money, and then they're like, okay, well we've sold that to that land to Pakistan or whatever. But no, we're paying them to come and sit on that land and occupy that land. It's like, you mental. This is like, we've lost a war. This is genuinely like we've lost a war. Anyway, listen, I've gone on too long. I know I said I was going to talk about that clampdown on right-wing extremism in the army. I'm going to have to do it next time. I'm really sorry. I don't want to drag out. I don't want to drag this out. I'm just amazed I made it, you know, this far without the tech falling over. But I'm going to do, like, was the tech on this? Was it better quality? Was it better quality than the last ones, the ones I did in StreamYard? I hope it was. I'll just go through the some of the comments, because these are great. Oh wow, we've got loads of comments. Man, I should have. The thing is, I don't have the thing linked to actually show the comments and the thing where I'm streaming, so then I forget about it. Savile was good on radio. Stuart Hall's football commentary was legendary. Whatever they did in their past, in the way I saw and enjoyed them. And it's like how I feel about Harvey Weinstein. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, some people had a terrible time, but millions were entertained. Harris, Rolf's Cartoon Time, or Vets in Practice. What was that? Animal Sanctuary or something? Even Gary Glitter, Rock and Roll Parts 1 and 2 are still tracks worth listening to. If I posted that on Twitter, there would be meltdown. I guess I've just read it out on YouTube. I mean, you got to separate the art from the artist. You know what I mean? That's how I feel. You can watch repeats of Top of the Pops 2. and enjoy Jimmy Savile introducing Gary Glitter. Paul says, Gary gets no royalties as he sold rights. Banbury used to be proud. He came from Banbury. Yeah, and he probably wouldn't even be the worst sex offender in Banbury now if he went back there. In 10 years' time, walk into a pub there, ask for a pint of Tennent's, and you'll have to Google translate it. Yeah, and also, the pub won't be serving Tennent's. This is talking about Glasgow. That's the lager of Scotland. And it's the proper lager of Scotland, not this brewdog punk IPA. Punk, if it's punk, you don't write punk on the side of it. You know what I mean? Like the Sex Pistols weren't walking around being like, oh, by the way, we're so anti-establishment. They just were the thing. They were the thing, and then they, maybe the Sex Pistols is a bad example, but punk isn't about branding yourself as punk. If you've got professional branding, then by definition you're not punk. You know what punk is? It's this tangle of wires, this kit that I've made myself, like Stig of the Dump, like the A-Team. Like you've left the A-Team in a garage, and the A-Team, it's like this A-Team Apprentice mashup, and you've tasked them with producing a live stream, and they've done it with some kit they got from China. So yeah, I'm not punk either. I'm definitely not punk. What else are we talking about? But Andrew Frank says, bloody hell, that's all you need. All those seekers on Skag. It comes from Afghanistan too. Paul says, Lotus Eaters did calculations. 5 kids, 70 grand equivalent. So yeah, I was right about the 70 grand. I think there's some sort of, I think if you have kids in nursery, then you've got to be earning like over 100 grand, like well over 100 grand to be actually better off than being on benefits, which is just an insane, the society works on incentives. The economy works on incentives. And if you're incentivizing people to stay on benefits and not work, that's what they'll do. If it's more, obviously that's what they're going to do. It's mental. And of course, the major downside is having 5 annoying kids. Yeah, it is. You could have cool ones though. Who knows? I always find other people's kids are really annoying, but my own, not annoying, but they probably annoy other people. Can see the boss panic. Poor sods get sent to Wester Hales. Yeah, I remember when I was working. I used to work night shift in this when I was like young, like 21 or something. I worked night shift in a petrol station, out like not far from Wester Hales. It was like sort of Sight Hill, in the Edinburgh one, and a Texaco garage. And man, they were like, the guys that come in, but they seem to be like a different sort of. They seem to be more well-to-do, like African guys who come in. I mean, a guy coming in, he was dressed so smart. He was wearing like a sort of almost like a cowboy outfit, and he had like crocodile skin shoes. And I think now the people that are coming, or maybe he was just saving so much money that he could afford the crocodile skin, or maybe he killed that crocodile himself. It ate his sister, and that's how he got revenge. He killed it. I got £3.50 an hour for working night shift in that petrol station. So 35 quid for a 10-hour night shift. Man. And I remember the till was down and they docked my pay. I didn't nick it. They docked my pay. Oh man. I wish I could go back there and people get angry about stuff. I was so angry about that. It's like, you're already paying me like hardly any money. It's mental. I should have been on benefits. Although my rent was £12.50 a week back then. It sounds like it was from the 1940s. This was only like, what, 90... I can't remember, 96? 97, 98? Isn't Ireland 20% foreign born actually abroad, not foreign origin? I've got no idea. Great Clown World. Oh yeah, the quality seemed to be better, thank you. It's sharper. It seems to be a little... Is it slightly jerky? I'm going to iron it out. Also, I'm very shiny. Maybe I need to start doing the GB News thing of like putting makeup on. Actually, we stop getting... Well, I think other people get makeup. But not me. Not me. I've got to bring my own powder in. Just like Scottish people do. A little bag. Have a wee dab. Okay. Well, thanks for listening. Sorry I went long. And next time, I've still got a lot of stuff to talk about that I didn't even get to, and I don't know how. I thought looking at the list of stuff, I thought I'd be talking about this stuff for about 20 minutes. But I guess maybe if I focused harder. Next time I'm gonna do a line of that stuff they give to ADHD people. Amphetamines. And that keeps people focused. Who'd have thought? Who would have thought? Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll speak to you soon. Bye. Okay, how does